love sharing experiences. Our mission is preparing others to serve. Welcome to School of Mission Online. Your journey begins here.
Olá, boa tarde, boa noite ou bom dia, não importa onde você está vendo a gente agora.
My name is Johan, and I study medicine here in UAP, and I'm from Brazil.
My name is Mari. I'm also from Brazil, and I also study medicine here with Johan at UAP. We would like to know from where are you from, so write it to us in our chat so we can greet you.
It doesn't matter where you're watching this from, please be very welcome.
To start this programmation, we would like to ask Jonathan to ask for God's presence for us.
Olá.
Hello.
Agora a gente vai orar.
Now we're going to pray. Bow our heads.
Querido Pai,
Dear Father,
muito obrigado porque
thank you so much
você deu pra gente a oportunidade
because you have given us the opportunity
de aprender um pouquinho mais sobre os desafios que se tem para alcançar as pessoas que não te conhecem.
the opportunity to learn a little more about the
Muito obrigado.
the different trials that we have to pass through to give the message to all people.
Te precisam. Por favor, permita que essa aula seja de benefício para nós.
We like to ask you that this class may be of great usefulness to everyone who's listening to it.
Para alcançar aqueles que
May we be prepared to reach all those who need you and that need whatever
processo que
you can provide.
a gente for passar para ser missionários seja com ajuda para nossas em teu nome oramos.
May we be capacitated in this course to be more prepared to give out your message, God. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. Today we have a very special class with a very special guest that's going to be teaching us about Buddhism.
But first, let's give out some announcements. First, if you have not registered yet, I encourage you to register now using the QR code that is appearing on the screen or in the link or in the comment section below you.
And if you're already signed up, don't forget to check your email because we send you the passwords so you can enter our course and test. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel.
Do not forget also that every Friday there's a test available after 6 o'clock p.m. Here, 6 o'clock Argentina. So pay attention to the classes and read the book on our virtual platform before taking the test. Today's quiz will be about chapter 6, 7, and 8. Don't forget, we repeat from chapter 6, 7, and 8. If you have not yet done the last class test, there is still time to do it. Just read the first 5 chapters of the book Passport to Mission, and watch our first class last Friday.
Exactly. But remember, if you have any questions about anything, we have a question chat on our virtual platform, or you can write your question and send it to us through this email that will be appearing on your screen.
Right now, we'll start our interviewing sections. So our Heitor, Horacio Riso, will be interviewing another Heitor from the University of Peru.
Well, we're in the second edition of the School of Missions here in UAP. It doesn't seem real. We've started our second class from our 10-session School of Missions program. The UP exchange, the I Will Go Up, that has been proposed by the University, Adventist University de Plata. And as we have been doing since last Friday, we intend to do it every Friday. On this opportunity, I'm here with my colleague, the Dean from the Peruvian Union University, UPU, Dr. Gluder is accompanying us. Dr. Gluder Welcome, we greet you and our entire audience.
Thank you so much, Horacio. The truth is that it's great to participate and to see how young people are excited to say, I will go. Thank you so much for inviting us.
Well, it was a pleasure because we were participating in the South American edition of I Will Go at the university the other year. In a church that was under construction still, we gathered and served thousands of young people. A really important movement. We enjoyed the moment, and that moment and his leadership really set a course at the university regarding the mission.
In reality, this is our educational. That's what we were made for. We create professionals who can have a spirit of service. Everywhere, every institution is made so that it's possible to serve the society.
Gluder, the university has 3 campuses, one where you are just a few kilometers from Lima. Tell us a bit to us here at World who are listening to us about the structure of the Peruvian Union University in relation to what it offers and its environment.
Well, our institution was born in 1919, thinking about higher education, because at that time we only had elementary school, a high school, and yeah, the higher education was not established yet in Peru. But after a few years, history shows us that in 1946 we met here in Anyanga, where I'm talking from now. It's 19 to 18 kilometers from Lima. Then in 2002 we looked for another place in South Cholunquiani, another school that is renewed in southern Peru. The Adventist school is in Titicaca, which also became a branch of our institution. And focusing on the Peruvian jungle, in 2007 we started in Tarapopo. That is, we are covering the 3 regions of Peru, the coast, the jungle, the mountains, and this is how Peruvian University works administratively.
I had the privilege to participate in the survey the other year that we did in Lima, and I was chosen to go to the jungle region. Well, we received some fantastic coconuts, and it was a really good reception. And when we could see the degree of impact that the university has had in the 3 regions you've mentioned.
Yes, it's incredible. The truth is that here in Lima, we are in the central part of Lima, coming toward the center of Peru, and basically this is the referring institution of this entire area. In Juliaca, we are the only institution that the country now certifies. Of course, the institution of Turkey is particularly bright, thanks to these pioneers and missionaries like Fernando Stalso, his wife, and others who created the missionary spirit. And the university has this good name thanks to God. In the jungle, it is likewise the only private and accredited institution, thus giving the jungle its name. God has put us in specific places so that His light can shine.
That's right. It is interesting to know a little about the history of Argentina and Peru, as there are a number of ties that unite us. There are many ties. The flag, they say that San Martin was there participating in the creation and liberation of peoples. But more than the national bond, also we have many ties, which has to do with the history of the Adventist Church in Argentina, the history of the Adventist Church in Peru, the programs, the evangelism. How does the university live? It has a relationship with Argentina, right?
Of course. After Fernando Stalso came to Peru, another man called Pedro Cavalmarte came from the south, and not only from the south, but also from the center, in the jungle, and etc. He worked a lot in Peru, and I believe that the relationship between Peru and Argentina makes us like brothers and true. You have the white and the celestial colors, and we have the white and red color. And also, in the missionary aspect, the truth is that many of the evangelists who were opening the way to have other evangelists have been from Argentina. Many from Argentina came here to train evangelists to start preaching the world. And that was the inspiration for many young people who later became evangelists also.
It's true. If we were there together, we would be enjoying a good jar of picha morada, obviously without alcohol, enjoying these relationships.
Chicha morada.
Gluder, there are a number of students from your university listening to you, Peruvian students from different parts of the world and from Argentina. People are from other countries. What do you have to say to them as a pastor, as a father, as a dean? For each of them, what is your final message for them right now? I will listen to you.
The truth is that being part of a Christian education, especially in this I Will Go project, really is a great privilege for me. When I'm looking at history, I remember you guys back in 1890, the whole world in the universities that had lost,
Harvard.
yeah, como Harvard, que perderon ellos. They sent a lot of missionaries to other universities in countries like India, Africa, etc. And this awakening occurs today, and I want to congratulate you for choosing this program, to be part of this program, and to serve better in the mission. The Lord will be here and He'll prepare the way for us to walk. But before walking, you have to prepare yourself. And for that, we have this school. Congratulations to you, and may God bless you. And when there's a moment to do the Lord, I will go, I will move forward. The path is already going to be prepared, and you will be also prepared. Congratulations for being this and being part of this program. I will go.
For all our affection, may God bless you so much. We continue with the Mission School program. Thank you so much, Dr. Gluder for being part of this mission school and for continuing to encourage young people to serve others, but especially God.
Today we'll be meeting Mariana Sampaio, a valiant missionary who's been serving outside the country and follow to see some great things that God is doing through him.
Hola, soy Mariana Sampaio, soy exalumna de la UAP, estudié medicina de 2011 al 2018. También soy exalumna de la Escuela de Misión y justamente en el periodo que estuve estudiando en la UAP serví durante 8 meses como misionera en el Líbano. La experiencia que tuve en Beirut por los 8 meses que estuve ahí participando y ayudando en la comunidad fueron muy lindas. Pude aprender un montón y la verdad es que ha cambiado mi vida poder salir de mi cultura, ir a un lugar totalmente diferente, encontrarme principalmente con refugiados, que era con lo que más trabajaba, y poder vivir una vida sin predicar mucho con palabras porque no podía comunicarme en árabe, pero siempre tenía a traductores a mi lado. Fue una experiencia inolvidable poder vivir como un testimonio vivo para que las personas que estaban ahí, la mayoría con quien estaba junto eran musulmanes, así que poder vivir como Cristo para ellos fue la alegría más grande que tuve. Como les dije, hice parte de la Escuela de Misión, fui de la primera turma, la primera graduación, y tengo mucho orgullo de todas las cosas que pude aprender y vivir en la UAP. Me acuerdo que durante las clases que teníamos pudimos tener y oír de misioneros que se habían ido a lugares distantes y cómo eso nos inspiraba. Así que había puesto en mi corazón el propósito de que también quería salir y vivir esa experiencia de poder ayudar en la predicación del Evangelio así como Cristo nos pidió. Un consejo muy importante que les dejo primero es, si pueden aprender inglés, es fundamental en el mundo misionero para que uno pueda salir de su lugar de origen e ir para otros a servir en misiones transculturales. No es imprescindible, es claro que es posible servir sin hablar el inglés, pero es una oportunidad, así que te abre un montón de puertas, así que aprenden inglés. Lo segundo, sigan participando de la escuela de misión. Cada una de las clases, las charlas, ponerse en el lugar de un misionero transcultural e imaginar cuáles serían los problemas, siempre estar charlando con gente que ya fue, cuáles fueron las experiencias, las dificultades, las oportunidades que uno tuvo, pero principalmente ponerse en las manos de Dios para que Él te lleve hasta donde Él quiere que tú estés. Actualmente yo con mi esposo estamos haciendo parte de un proyecto de misioneros tent maker, los hacedores de tiendas, un proyecto de largo plazo en Islandia, así que participar de la escuela de misión fue el primer paso, salir al Líbano fue el segundo y ahora estoy viviendo mi vida como misionera, así como Dios ha puesto en nuestro corazón. Te animo a que sigas participando, estudiando, para que Dios te lleve hasta donde Él quiere.
Muito obrigado, Mariana, por compartilhar
So
com a
much,
gente
Mariana,
aqui seu
for
testemunho também.
sharing with us your testimony. Now it's time for our classes, so don't forget to leave your questions in our chat so that our pastor can answer it after the lecture. Our guest from today is Pastor Yuri Gramacho, who has once been chaplain in the district departmental youth pastor from a conference in Bahia, Brazil. For the past 5 years, he has served along with his family as missionary in Mongolia. He's also currently a professor at Salt Fadba, a school college in Bahia. And he coordinates the Church's Mission and Growth Institute at the same seminar. Recently, they received a call to coordinate a project of the General Association called Unusual Mission in Tokyo, with the objective of planting churches in the Japanese capital. Pastor, we thank you so much for you being here. How are you?
Of course, how are you? Everything's good. It's a pleasure to be here with everyone. Participating with the I Will Go here in UAP. I have the privilege to be here. I'm very impressed with the whole, the appearance of the place and the people, with the students, with a very multicultural climate, and we really can see that people breathe mission. It's very impressive, and it's great to be here.
Amen, Pastor. Thank you so much for accompanying us today in this class about Buddhism. It's a pleasure for us to have you here, and thank you for your time, and the time is all yours now.
Okay, I thank you very much, Lucas. If you guys can help me putting up the PowerPoint so we can start.
que é o budismo, tá bom? Queria mostrar para vocês aí.
I wanted to show you guys this this image that you guys are seeing there on the screen. If you guys can put it up. There we go. This image shows a bit of our reality. How it says there in Acts 1:8 to go to the ends of the earth. In this image, I'm in a region of Mongolia. And on that day, the temperature was minus 30 degrees Celsius. Below 0 Celsius. That is really, really cold. And there in Mongolia, we've had a very cool experience with Buddhist people. If you guys can just go to the next slide. On the next slide, you guys are going to see my family. If you guys can put that up there, please. Okay, there's my family. I don't know if it's only late for me, but if there's some gap in the audio, it's because of the yeah. There, I'm here with my family. We're there with traditional clothes from Mongolia. Those are my both children. That one went to Mongolia when he was just a baby, and one was born in Mongolia. And there we are. And during our work, we normally work with Buddhists, because in Mongolia, one of the most common religions is Buddhism with shamanism, but Buddhism is still more common. If you guys can go to the next PowerPoint. Today we're going to be talking about the Buddhist world. For me, for him, the words are backwards, but I think for us, we're seeing it everywhere. Everything's fine, I think. So we're going to be talking a bit about the Buddhist world. If we can just pass the PowerPoint slides. Okay, this picture, first picture, this shows the first encounter I've had with the world, the Buddhist world. But when we talk about the Buddhist world, we think about the Buddhist world, a place or people. And this is a little monk with 9 years old. And this was a very interesting experience for us. And after that first experience, we started having more of a relationship with these people and understanding a bit more of their way of life. We see there a lady praying. In this picture, I was participating with something from the church. And this first part is only an introduction for us to see a bit of pictures. We don't only limit ourselves to work in Mongolia. We went out to other countries to have a doctorate in world religions. This picture was taken in Thailand, so we could get to know other cultures and other people. And the reality is that we noticed that there doesn't exist one Buddhism. There exist Buddhisms, plural. We see a tribe called Kade tribe, that we see the ladies with the giraffe necks, with the really big necks. We see this monk that lives in a little hut, a little shack that's like less than 4 meters squared. There's barely any space to be like comfortable, to like lay down correctly with technology. I visited this village with these monks. At the end of the class, if we have time, I'm gonna tell you guys the story of my first encounter with this this monk from Thailand. We were able to know other countries, Buddhist countries, like Korea, Cambodia, and other countries. This picture is very interesting because it was also an encounter with a Buddhist monk, but because if you can notice, this is a mummified cadaver. It was very impactful for me when I was visiting this community. When I saw this nun, this monk, woman monk, and at the lad next to this glass coffin, we saw a picture of her in life when she was alive and her story. And then I asked the other monks and asked why do they expose this woman's corpse just for everyone to see. You know what their answer was? And on that answer, we're going to start to see what the Buddhist mentality is and what is their worldview. The monk answered like this. Do you know why she's out in front of everyone? It's because she's actually preaching a sermon. She's preaching a sermon. She's preaching a sermon in her current state. But how is she preaching? She's dead. She's not saying anything. How is she supposed to be preaching? He said. She's not preaching with her voice, but with her body. Her body still announces a very big truth. What truth? The truth is, everything is passing. Everything passes. Everything is impermanent. Nothing is permanent in this world. And she continues preaching. Everyone that sees will still hear and facing this truth, this reality. The word reality for a Buddhist is very important. Everything is impermanent. I was very impressed and very shocked with this little encounter with the Buddhists.
Now here you can see a Buddhist family. They were nomads. I had the great opportunity to meet families like this and participate with them in a nice meal with traditional drinks, with also very specific peculiar foods from Mongolia. It was a great privilege to meet this family and to get to know them. Here you can notice the difference between the world Buddhist and ours. For example, this temple is very similar and reminds us of the Chinese culture, Chinese architecture. At the capital of Mongolia, the monastery there is the primary monastery of the city, and it has a very big Chinese influence. So yes, the Mongolian Buddhism has a lot of influence from China. Here we can see in this architecture image that Theravada. We'll be teaching you about this later in our lecture. You can pass it to the next slide. This image of Buddha is all covered in gold. It's the biggest gold image of Buddha in the world. So these are characteristics that are very different. There's a lot of different groups of Buddhisms. Here we can see that in the top, with the orange clothing, are the monks. So this is a Buddhism community. They are the religious leaders called Sangha. We'll be talking about that later also. So the monks are sitting up in a platform, and the regular people, the regular people are sitting at a lower level. So this all has a lot of meanings, and the paintings in the walls, they all share a little bit of the Buddhist history, and we can see that obviously that in this region of Asia, they share their history through their architecture and also the paintings. So for me, the words are showing backwards, so I'll be looking at my computer. So you can see there in the slide a lot of basic information about Buddhism. We don't have much time to go deep into these topics, but we'll be at least giving you a basis, so you can know how can I preach to a friend, to someone that is from a Buddhist religion, that is from another country, from India, Mongolia, from Korea, from China, from Japan. All these countries have Buddhist characteristics. But how can we preach to a Buddhist that is in Argentina and Brazil? So this is what we'll be learning today, to reach the people that have a Buddhist way of life. So the first thing we should teach you is who is the founder. His name is Siddhartha Gautama, who is now known as Buddha, which means the enlightened one, the one who awakened. That's what Buddha means, the enlightened one. Or yeah, the awakened one. The one that was awakened, the one that shines, the enlightened one. Many of these Buddhist words are translated from Pali, who was the traditional words. So yeah, in this presentation I'll be using words from Pali or Sanskrit, which is another language that was used in the founding of Buddhism. Now talking about the Bible, the Hebrew was the language that in which the Bible was written, and then the Aramaic is the language in which the people used to talk to each other. So this is the same way in the Buddhism. The Buddhism was founded in India, which is now currently Nepal. But yeah, they didn't have the same division of countries at that time. So we know that when it was founded, it was in India, but now it's Nepal. It was around the 6th century before Christ. So you can have an idea. Right now we have about 500 million followers that consider themselves Buddhists. So that means that Buddhism is the 5th largest religion in the planet. So yeah.
So in Southeast Asia, Buddhism is considered one of the biggest religions around that region. It's impossible to talk about Buddhism and not talk about the history of Buddha. So I'm going to be talking about it really quick right now. Buddha, historically, was a principe that was called Siddhartha Gautama. And in history, we see that there are many different versions. And sometimes you think like, oh yeah, I've read something different. But that's normal, because in the Buddhist mentality is not very important to have like a factual history. What's important is the what you learn from it, not so much the fact. They start with myths, so it's very common to see variants of these myths. So, but in general, we believe that this Siddhartha Gautama was born as a prince and was born of a woman that was called Maya. And we believe that his mother died very after he was born. And his father, who was a very big authority and governor in that area of India, received a prophet. Kind of like when Jesus was born and the prophets came, the wise men came. The same thing kind of happened with Buddha. The wise man came and said to his father, look, your child is a very special child, and he's destined to make a very big difference in this world. But he has two paths he can take. He can choose any of them. He's either going to be a very big governor, or he's going to be one of the biggest religious leaders of the world. And when his father heard this conditional prophecy, he decided to protect his child in the palace so that his son would choose to become a very big governor in the future. So he tried to just keep him sequestered in the palace. So, and his life, Siddhartha's life in the palace was just based on pleasure, on everything he wanted, money, and his dad gave him everything he wanted. So his dad didn't let him have a relationship with anyone from outside of the palace. And so he gave a princess to Siddhartha to marry. And then something happened that changed completely his life, the prince's life. So one day, this story says, he decided to leave the palace. So he got some horses and he left with his friend. As he was going through the streets of the city that was outside of the palace for the first time, Siddhartha sees 4 scenes or visions. Normally in English, we see the title, The 4 Passing Sights. So these 4 passing sights were very fundamental for the changes that Buddha was gonna have until he arrived to Buddha. So first he saw a blind man, then he saw a sick man. Third, he saw a dead body. And fourth, he saw a wise man, a holy man that had left everything, every material thing that he had. So he was looking for the truth. So that impacted Buddha because the first sights, the old man, the sick man, and the dead man, was very impactful for him because he had never thought about it. And he asked, "What is this?" And his friend told him, "This is you, Buddha, Siddhartha. You are also going to get old, you're also going to get sick, and you're also going to die." He had never seen anything like that. And from there on, he started being conscious about that. And his life wasn't going to make sense if his life was just going to be get old, get sick, and die. So his fourth sight, the holy man, the wise man, brought him some hope that he would be able to look for some new ways of life. He wasn't satisfied with his own life at the moment that he lived in the palace. Siddhartha decides to just leave everything, all the pleasures, and he left the palace to look for the truths that he so much wanted. And it says that at a certain moment, he got together with a group of people that had left all their material stuff, and they decided to not eat for almost 6 years. He got so skinny that he almost died. He basically ate nothing. They said that he touched his stomach and they would feel his vertebrae, which is really, really extreme. At a moment, this one young girl, saw his state. He was almost dying. He was meditating, looking for the truth. She gives him a bowl of sweet rice. And when he sees this child giving him this bowl and being so compassionate, he eats that rice. It may be something simple, but at that moment, Siddhartha arrived at a conclusion that he should not go to the extremes. He shouldn't look for a life of pleasures like he lived in the palace, and much less a life of just complete renouncement of things, because that's another extreme, and that would not lead to wisdom. And he was just dying off, and he came to the conclusion that now he would look for the path that was in the middle. And that expression basically defines all of Buddhism. And Buddhism is known as the middle way. Not one extreme of the world and one extreme of abnegation. And from there on, his friends left him, and he continued on his path to enlightenment. One day, he sat under a tree, and it became known as the wisdom tree, or the tree of enlightenment, the body tree. And the body means to enlighten. So the Buddha comes from that, and he sat under this tree, and there he decided that he would not leave that place until he was enlightened. And the story says, while he was just reliving his life, rethinking about his life through he was able to see his past reincarnations. He understood finally the human nature and the actual problem of the humans. And that is called nirvana. He means enlightened. He is now the enlightened Buddha. And this enlightenment, this awakening, it's not an ecstasy feeling. No, it's simply when you wake up. But wake up from what? When you wake up from the illusion, Buddhism says, when you perceive, when you actually realize the reality of the problems that humans have, as if we understand everything. Everything makes sense. Everything connects. And so you're awakened. You receive enlightenment, and you liberate yourself.
It's very important for you to understand this in Buddhism. When we talk about Buddhism, the Buddhists have something called the three jewels, or the three refuges. And it's very common for the Buddhists to recite these phrases. I take refuge in Buddha, I take refuge in Dharma, and I take refuge in Sangha. These are the three jewels: Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. We've already talked about Buddha a little bit. Dharma is all the teachings of Buddha. And Sangha is the religious community. The community of monks that unites together to practice the Dharma, which is Buddha's teachings. So when they take refuge in Buddha, they're searching in Buddha as a kind of inspiration, not as if Buddha was a god, but they search in Buddha. They take him as a model. His person is a model for them. From they admire his history, all he has done, but also his decisions, his nature, the nature he preaches and lives. The Dharma leads your life around the teachings that Buddha preaches. And Sangha, just repeating, Sangha is the monk community. They live their life according to the teachings Buddha has taught, and they follow the teachings of the mentors above them. Now we'll be talking about the Four Noble Truths. When Buddha reached the enlightenment, he came to the realization of Four Noble Truths. One word is more special than the others, and it's called suffering. Suffering is from the word dukkha. So the first noble truth about the reality of suffering is life is suffering. Life is suffering is the first noble truth of Buddhism. That is very fundamental for you that want to preach for a Buddhist. Life is suffering. You can see that the Four Noble Truths are all connected to each other. It's kind of like a medical diagnosis. So like one symptom, every symptoms, they're all related to each other, and that's how the noble truths are. So yeah, you suffer when you were born, you suffer in your mother's womb, and yeah, life is all suffering. Now talking about the samudaya is the second noble truth. It's talking about the origin of suffering. Suffering is a fruit of desire. And then, yeah, everything that you're attached to makes you suffer from it. So we'll get back to that. Now the third noble truth is the nirodha, the cessation of suffering. If we eliminate this desire we have for things, we will eliminate the suffering that we have. And now the fourth truth is the way that you can eliminate this desire. And the way that Buddha says that you can end this suffering is to follow strictly the Noble Eightfold Path. So there are eight instructions that the Buddhism preaches that you can end this suffering. So yeah, you can see that suffering, the word suffering is a word to translate the word dukkha. You could relate the word suffering to the word insatisfaction. Once you desire something and you cannot have, you're unsatisfied with your state of life, that makes you suffer. So the word insatisfaction could be could give you an image of this word suffering. So everything in life is unpermanent, is not permanent. So even if one day you get to reach that thing you desire, one day you will lose it. So the best thing is for you to eliminate this desire so you can free yourself from this suffering. So yes, and the way for you to eliminate this desire is through the Noble Eightfold Path that we will be talking about right now. The Noble Eightfold Path is right here. We won't be talking about this for a lot out of time because we don't have much time. So the 8 instructions are correct understanding, right thought, correct speech, correct action, correct way of life, correct effort, correct awareness, and correct concentration. It is very important for you to go back and look at these instructions with a lot of attention, because these are very important for them. When I talked about Buddhisms, in fact, there's not one Buddhism. There's a lot of ways of Buddhism. There's a lot of different traditions, a lot of different schools or different ways or vehicles. This is a very common word for them, vehicles. There's 3 big vehicles or traditions in Buddhism. The first one is the Theravada, which means actually the tradition of elders is the more conservative and centered on monastic life. It's centered in the scriptures called Tripitaka. The second school, the second vehicle is Mahayana. It's called the Great Vehicle. No, actually Mahayana so they say that Mahayana is the Great Vehicle, it's superior to, they consider themselves superior to the Theravada, which are the traditional ones. The Theravada is a very individual group. the Mahayana, they're more, it's a more broad group. They include other people. It's more inclusive group.
So they believe that they came back to this world so they could teach other people about the way. And there's a third type called Vajrayana. The translation would be the diamond path. It's more esoteric, mais mystical, my syncretism, and extreme spiritual techniques.
So let's go to the next slide. We don't have much time, unfortunately. Yeah. Now we're gonna see some very important concepts. Very important concepts. When you talk about religion, we usually think about a divine creature, a divine God. God as the creator. But the Buddhism is a religion without a God. Is that possible, a religion without God? This is called a religion non-theistic. Some people say that Buddhism is an atheist religion. But I don't agree with that, because the Buddhism, they don't say that God doesn't exist. They just simply don't talk about God. They don't say he doesn't exist. They just simply don't talk about it. Don't talk about him. They talk about their very different ways to live life without a God. But they don't actually preach that they don't believe in God. There are divine images in Buddhism, but these different divine creatures, they actually die and reincarnate like normal humans. The concept about samsara is the concept about the infinite cycle. You die, but you reincarnate. So it's so you're actually trapped in your life, because if life is suffering, you can never run away from it, because you die and then you get reborn, and then you die again and then you reborn again. So this is the samsara concept. So they are, during this infinite cycle, they try to exercise this idea of them that they need to run away from your desire to not suffering during this infinite cycle. The third important concept is the impermanence, which simply means that nothing is permanent, everything passes. The concept anatta, or anatman, is the opposite of atman. And it means that non-self is the elimination of your own self. The concept of karma is actually that you reap whatever you planted. So it's very important in the Buddhism world. The meritorious works say that you can accumulate merits for your work, like prayers, offerings, pilgrimages, and sacred places, and various rituals. You can accumulate these meritorious works. And the nirvana is the enlightenment, liberation, and extinction.
So now we're going to see exactly what does Buddhism want. The Buddhist doesn't want a better life. He doesn't want a life in paradise like Christians want a new world, a new heaven, eternal life. Life in the Buddhist mind is suffering, so he doesn't want to live. He wants to stop living. And their mind dying isn't to cease existing. It's just part of the cycle. So when you die, when the Buddhist is going to die, he starts thinking, oh, I'm going to start all over again. I'm going to have to suffer all over again. I have to be born again, grow up, go through all of it. So death isn't the end of their life. So the Buddhist doesn't want to live, but he don't want to die, because life and death is connected in their minds. So what the Buddhists want is what they want to stop existing. He wants to disappear, in other words. He wants to be extinct, completely extinct. He wants that his self be completely erased. So how does that happen? So up until here, I want to ask how much time we still have. So I'm going to start comparing a bit of the... So I want to talk about how we need to understand that Buddhism was born in a certain context with the Hinduism. So we see Buddhism has a very interesting relationship with Hinduism, because sometimes Buddhism does something completely opposite of Hinduism. For example, Hinduism has thousands of gods, and Buddhism has no gods. Hinduism, they have the whole caste things, and Buddhism has no caste. Buddhism says that everyone can be enlightened. Hinduism has the whole priests and use of sacrifices. Buddhism does not have sacrifices, but Buddhism takes from the Hinduism. They get karma and also the concept of nirvana. But in Hinduism they have another word for it, but in practice it's the same thing. So my question for you is what? So technically Buddha was born 500 years before Christ. So if this happened, if Jesus and Buddha got together and met each other, what would Jesus say to Buddha? Why would I ask you this? And the question, the answer to this question is going to help us. We're going to use it as a parameter. So what would Jesus ask Buddha? And this answer is going to help us understand how we're going to preach to someone that has the Buddhist mentality, okay?
So the question is, what would God preach to Buddha? What would he say to him? What would be Jesus' message to Buddha? You can pass the next slide. Friends, I would like to tell you that the first question about what God would say to Buddha, the answer to this question is a little different from what we imagined. God wouldn't say anything to Buddha at first. The first thing Jesus would do to Buddha was listen to him. He wouldn't say anything to Buddha at first. So the first thing you need to know is that you need to understand the person's vision in life. You need to listen to that person's worldview before you start speaking, before you start talking to a person. So yeah, you need to understand to be understood first. So before I want someone to understand my message, I need to understand their message. I need to understand what's their worldview. How do they see reality? How do they interpret their reality? How do they see the world? And so their ways of seeing life is usually very different from our worldview here in Occidental.
Western.
You can see that God, Jesus, He's always mixing himself with other people. He's always mixing himself with different cultures, different kinds of people. Once we comprehend their worldview, the way they see the world, once we do that, we can also, once we see how they see the world, we can also see how they see us. We can see what's their image of of Christians. We can see that usually their vision of Christianity is very wrong. Is very because usually they haven't had a teaching about Christianity. They just heard things about Christianity, and these things came to him in a very changed way from what our reality is. So it's important to listen to them so we can see how they see us. So the first step is for you to put another
New glasses.
new glasses so you can see what are they, what are their contexts, what do they value, what are their doctrines, what are their beliefs, so that way you can improve your point of contact. When we talked about cosmovision,
Worldview.
worldview, many times we judge people just from the way we see, from the way they act. But the way someone acts is only like the tip of the iceberg. You can see the rest of the iceberg once you listen to them, so you can see their beliefs, their history, their worldview, their how they interpret reality. So it's very important for you to go deep in a person, not judge them only by the way they act. Now I'm gonna start going to the final section. Once you analyze Buddha's teaching and his way of life, and Jesus' teaching and Jesus' way of life, is that the central concern of these two great beings was the reality of human life and freedom from suffering. The great question is, what did them two consider what did they consider the cause of suffering? Buddha considered the ignorance and the attachment to the material things. So for Buddha, the origin of suffering was being attached and desiring the things in his life that made you suffer. But God was also interested in the human suffering, but for him, the origin of suffering was all the way back when sin was started. The point in common between them two is that both of them are trying to give us a solution of freedom from suffering.
So I'm gonna talk about some interesting insights that has some like contextualization. So when we look at Buddha and we look at Jesus, who is the person gonna choose? It really depends on the answers that you give. The problem is that many times we want to give the answer without listening to their questions. And sometimes we're giving answers to questions that aren't being made. And then many questions that are being asked are not being answered. So when we're going to talk, we need to listen to the questions. It's interesting to see that in Buddhism, God is not a question. God is not a question. So if you straight up come up to the person and you confront them about the existence of God, they don't really care. It's not a question. It's not a worry about if God exists or not. So when we normally want to just show the God of creation to them, it can't be the first thing we talk about with a Buddhist. It's because obviously you're going to talk about it, but it's not the first thing because it's not a question in their minds. It's not a problem for them. You need to find a problem, a question. So if you come up to a Buddhist and you tell them God is love, in his head, they're going to understand that this deity is inferior, because for a Buddhist, love is to be attached to something. So because if you love something, you're attached to them. You want that for yourself. So you're going to suffer. So for them, this deity is inferior to what they believe. So it's something that you're going to have and you're going to lose afterwards. So if you straight up tell them God is love, you could use something else. You can use the word compassion. Because the Bible says that Jesus looked at the thousands of people and he had compassion of them. For Buddhists, that's perfect, because a spiritual leader looked at people and had compassion. And when you talk about a love, they're going to think about being attached to something. So the words are very important when you're talking to a Buddhist. The second point is salvation. So the word for them, it's not going to make sense for a Buddhist. Salvation is what? Salvation of what? Sin? What is sin? Buddhists don't think about that. They don't think like that. They don't think about salvation and going to the paradise. They want liberation. So instead of talking about Jesus came to save you, you can tell them that Jesus came to free you from the samsara. He came to end with the samsara, which is the cycle of rebirth and dying and the cycle of life. So you can tell them that Jesus came to free you from that. And that's what they want. So the Bible says, if God frees you, if Jesus frees you, you will be freed. And you will know the truth, and the truth will free you. So these terms are very important. So you can say this: Jesus can help you arrive to nirvana, the illumination. Because Jesus is the light of the world. So if you're close to him, you will also be enlightened, because you will be close to the light of the world. So the concept of the non-self is that they want to get rid of their self. So, and Jesus said, if you want to be my disciples, you need to, you have to crucify your own self. It's Paul said that it's not me that lives, it's God, Jesus that lives in me. I'm dead, Jesus lives in me. So this is perfect, because it's a bridge between the concepts of Christianity and Buddhism. So if you straight up come and tell them, so if you're going to talk about grace, they're not going to understand, because they think about merits, about acts, about stuff that you do that will make you be enlightened. So it doesn't make sense that compassion and grace, yes. So the thing with ignorance and wisdom, the Bible talks about wisdom, and Buddhists look for wisdom. And two really good books for Buddhists is Ecclesiastes, that talks about like the life, and Proverbs from Solomon, that are very important books for Buddhists that helps them understand grace, compassion, and all that. I don't know how much time I have, but I hope they tell me.
So yeah, let me know how much time I have, so then I can close up our thoughts. Hello? I just need to know if I have to conclude now, so I can have 5 more minutes. Can you put up the presentation for us again? just so I can show you some. I'll show you some 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 things I went through and that I actually got to see when I was there. If you say to a Buddhist, Jesus came to give you eternal life, if you say that to a Buddhist, Jesus came to give you eternal life, what will a Buddhist understand from this? You remember the first noble truth, which was God, life is suffering. So if life is suffering and God will give you eternal life, they're gonna think Jesus came to give them, to make them suffer eternally. That they're gonna be trapped in the samsara forever. So it's very important for you to, before you talk to someone from another worldview, from another country, you need to understand what these words mean for them. So the word Maitreya,
So Maitreya has been used a lot in the New Age movement. Maybe you've heard of this. And it talks about, it refers to the Buddha of the future.
do you know what do they believe in? Of who is Maitreya? For them, Maitreya is a Buddha of the future. It's a enlightened being, and that this Buddha, he was in the clouds.
They believe that this enlightened being is going to come through the clouds, that he is going to show compassions when the world is in chaos, when there's earthquakes, when there's plagues, that he's going to come and restart a new cycle and a new world.
So we can see that that's a very interesting bridge for us to talk about Jesus is coming. Because when he talks about a future Buddha, an enlightened being that will come, that's a very good bridge that we can present through Matthew 24.
For them, it's something that's very familiar when you show that text to them, because they already believe in the Maitreya.
Exactly. And this painting, I don't know if you can see it very well. It's in the wall of a church. It's in an Adventist church in Thailand, and you can see Jesus is coming. But they've painted this Jesus is coming with Buddhist characteristics. They're wearing Buddhist similar clothes, similar to the Buddhist clothing. The images are also similar to their culture. So this is very interesting to see this strategy for that they use to share Jesus is coming.
So it doesn't seem so weird and from another country.
Yeah. So one day I was at a place watching this monk. He was doing his spiritual rituals, and I was watching him, and he was very focused in his meditation, that when he was so focused that once he finished and left from his meditation, he forgot his sandals. So these monks, they have this tunic, this tunic, and they have their sandals, and sometimes they have a little bag, but usually they only wear this tunic and his sandals. So once I saw that he was so focused that he forgot his sandals, I took his sandals, ran after him, and yeah, I greeted him in Thailand with the little Thailandese I have, and I started talking to him. And that was very cool, because they think that all the Western people are Christians and that they're all ignorant. They see us, they think about sexuality, about luxury, about greedy people. That's their worldview from the Western side of the world. So when he saw a Western guy giving him back his sandals during this gesture, was very good for him, and he was very impressed. He was very shocked. And it was very interesting because once I did that, he
Bowed.
yeah, he bowed to me. He bowed like a full bow.
Yeah, and normally Buddhists don't bow to others because they only bow to entities, to a full enlightened person.
Hey, they don't bow. They don't bow to normal people. We could put it that way. Buddhism is based in Buddha's
Personal experiences.
personal experiences. It's not about theories. It's not about books. It's about the personal experiences. So once they see your personal actions, your personal ways, they value that a lot. This is an old lady from Mongolia. She has never heard the name of Jesus. She has never heard his name. And so I talked to her about Jesus, and we started doing
Bible studies.
Bible studies. And one thing we did for her, we gave her carbon, no, that thing you need
Coal.
to coal to make fire, because it was very, very cold over there, and they were very poor. They didn't have money to buy that. So yeah, they use fire usually to cook. So or you cook, or you eat well, or you
Or you stay warm.
or you stay warm. You have to use. They have little material to make their fires. So giving them this material was very, very touching for her. So she told me the first time I felt what Jesus is, what
God's love.
Christianity, God's love was when you brought me this coal. So our mission is this. Our mission is to show them and make our image through our actions.
So this is the image of my first baptism. It was the first Buddhist that I baptized in Mongolia. That other lady also baptized, but this was the first one, so he was very, very important to me, because it was the first time I actually was able to see the power of the message and the life of a Buddhist. For me, it was interesting because there were many different things. It's hard for a Buddhist to understand this, and so we need to learn how to teach the message and be able to live the message. So we have Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and normally Buddhists won't lead that. So they're gonna have to read the book, the fifth book, that is us, our life. It's your name. It's your life. They're gonna read your life. So if your life is gonna be the book they're gonna be reading, and then blessing the other lives, and they will be finally understand that Jesus isn't just enlightened being. They're gonna understand that Jesus is the actual enlightenment of the world, the light of the world. So this is the message that we have for you today. Pastor, thank you so much for introducing us to this religion. Thank you very much. Now we're going to be answering some questions that the people are leaving in the chat.
And the first question is, it will be showing there in your screen. Let's see if the question will show up. Everyone was sending their questions. There were a lot of questions. Some questions you actually already answered during your... So yeah, let's see the first question. First question is, Which belief does
Which belief does Christianity have that's in common with the Buddhism that makes a very easy conversation happen? I already talked a bit about this, but if there's something that's very important for a Buddhist is the humble life and a life of service and compassion, showing compassion. So there's a story of a pastor about a book that's in a book called Mission, a Two-Way Street. So he talks about a story of a monk that asked for an image that would talk about the essence of Jesus. So the missionary, he saw that if he talked about the cross, that is our symbol for Christianity. If he talked about the cross and Jesus on the cross, the Buddhist would understand this man is a bad man, because if Jesus died with such a horrible death, it would mean that he had a really bad karma. Do you understand? If we talk about suffering and the cross, and Jesus is suffering on the cross, for them, they're going to understand the exact opposite. It's going to be bad karma. So in his past life, Jesus was a horrible person, an assassin or something. So instead of talking about the cross, you know what he's talked about? He suggested to paint on the wall in the monastery the essence of all the big that's what the monk wanted. He wanted the essence of each big religion. So he told the monk to paint Jesus washing the other people's feet. And the monk was shook. He was impressed, because a master would never do such a thing. So when he saw the master, Jesus, washing his disciples' feet, he finally understood Jesus' greatness in that humble and service act. So your posture and your life is going to be, so your non-self, your compassion. So most things are going to be very different, but the compassion and the service is going to be the bridge between Christianity and Buddhism. So that's very interesting. So we have a second question. So if God considers the sincerity of a heart, why should we take the message of Jesus to the Buddhists?
It's an excellent question. Friends, I have no question that God will judge everyone according to the light they have been given. The Buddhists, they are in search of this enlightenment. So we know that God will judge people according to the secrets of their heart. I have no question that in heaven we will be very surprised to see a lot of people that have never heard about Jesus but will be saved thanks to God's grace, because with the light they had, they tried to do their best, and God reveals himself to these people in many different ways. And our division, our mission, we need to know that before we get there at our mission place, God has been there before. So yeah, remember that the Buddhists, they are always in search of more light. Isn't it interesting that if they are searching for light, we should show them our light. We should show them God's light, because it won't be something different. It won't be something that they have never heard. It's something they're already used to. It's very beautiful, Pastor. Thank you so much for today's class. We thank you so much from the bottom of our hearts. May God keep blessing you in this wonderful work that you're doing.
Amen. I thank you guys. I'm going to leave a blessing in Mongolian. This piece of fabric is very much used in Mongolia to bless people, to receive the blessings from from heaven, because blessings come with it. It means, may God bless you and your family. with the blessings of heaven.
Thank you, Pastor. May you be blessed and also your family. Unfortunately, right now we're ending our second class of our School of Mission, and we learned a lot today. We learned a lot about Buddhism. We learned how to reach their hearts. Thank you again, Pastor, and for you that were there watching with us.
In this moment, we're going to be opening up our second quiz. So you should be reading the book, Passport to Mission, 6, 7, and 8. If we weren't able to open up the platform, please write us through our email that will be up on the screen at this moment.
We'll be waiting for you on our next Friday with the Dr. Cheryl Doss. May you be blessed. May your families be well. And right now we'll be listening to our song,
Nos diste una misión para cumplir, Señor. Llevar tu mensaje, anunciar que eres el Salvador. En un mundo lleno de corazones, buscando consuelo y solaz. Tu ejemplo nosotros queremos seguir, llevar compasión y paz. Yo iré donde quiera que me envíes, con tu poder y en tu nombre. Voy al mundo a anunciar tu mensaje. Misionero seré para servir, esperanza y amor yo quiero compartir. Donde quiera que me envíes, yo iré. Por tu obra trabajaremos con alegre voluntad, hasta que todo oído haya escuchado tu verdad. En un mundo lleno de corazones, buscando consuelo y solaz. Tu ejemplo nosotros queremos seguir, llevar compasión y paz. Yo iré donde quiera